I call the October 9, 2018 meeting of the Portsmouth City Council to order. And we're privileged tonight to have our invocation by Pastor Colby Schartzer of the Portsmouth First Friends Church. And I'll ask my colleagues to stand as Pastor Colby leads us in the invocation. And then I'll ask Councilman Bill Moody to lead us in the pledge.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, God, we thank you that when we pray, when we call out to you, you hear us. And God, tonight we ask that you would just guide this meeting, Lord, that we would be doing your will, not just here tonight, but every day of our lives. God, we ask that you would continue to to bless the leaders of the city, and God, that you would continue to strengthen and encourage them. And Lord, we ask a special protection over our law enforcement, our fire and first responders, God, that you would just keep them safe. And Lord, tonight may we just do your will, and our own selfish ambitions would be laid to the side, God, and we would see people the way you want to see people, and we would love people the way you love people. And we give this all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll ask my colleagues on council will participate in an electronic roll call, and if you'll hit the yes button. And Madam Clerk, we have a quorum. Our next item is the consideration of the approval of minutes. And we have the minutes of a call meeting of September the 24th, 2018, the minutes of a call meeting of September 25th, 2018, and the minutes of a regular council meeting of September the 25th, 2018. And we'll consider all three in one motion. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
We have a motion that's been duly made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion, which is to approve, please vote yes. Opposed, no. And Madam Clerk, that motion carries. Which brings us to a public hearing. And Madam Clerk, would you read the caption of the public hearing? Well, before we do that, would you read the protocol for speakers, please?
Yes, sir. City Council rules require a limit of up to 5 minutes to speak. As you approach the speaker's podium, you will notice a timer. At the beginning of your 5 minutes, you will see a green light. 4 minutes into your remarks, you will notice a yellow light. At the end of 5 minutes, you will see a red light, hear a beep, and we ask that you conclude your remarks at that time. While speakers have an opportunity to address council on matters of public concern, all comments should be made in a manner that respects the seriousness of the forum and should not be made in a belligerent, sarcastic, or demeaning fashion. A speaker who fails to observe this basic rule of decorum will be deemed out of order and not allowed to conclude his/her comments.
Thank you. Now we'll consider the public hearing. And Madam Clerk, will you read the caption for the public hearing, please?
Yes. Item 18379, public hearing on the proposed adoption by the City Council of a resolution to authorize the city to contract a debt and issue general obligation bonds of the city or notes in anticipation thereof in a principal amount estimated not to exceed $10,900,000 to finance the cost of the purchase of fire trucks and various service vehicles and items of equipment for the city and the cost of issuing the bonds.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on the city's proposal to issue certain bonds. If you desire to speak on this matter, please come to the lectern. You'll have 5 minutes to speak. Please state your name and your address. And with that, open the public hearing. And does anybody want to speak on this matter? Please come to the lectern, state your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes. Ma'am? Oh, we do have a speaker. Donna Sy, please come. I was going to recognize you as, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood. 18-379 is a public hearing, a resolution to issue obligation bonds for over $10 million to purchase fire trucks and various service vehicles and items of equipment for the city and the cost of issuing the bonds. Where in the budget was this anticipated borrowing of money discussed? Where is the capital improvement plan in anticipation of purchasing fire trucks and various service vehicles and items of equipment? How come this hearing was presented without any planning ahead before now? The problem in the city is the people have no representation. We need to have 5 districts implemented, so we the people have someone to consult with regarding all business affairs of the city. What were the grants used for that were given a couple of weeks ago? In your folder, there's an example of forms to fill out in anticipation and planning for capital projects. And I would like to see the forms that were used to assess the need for these purchases. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, ma'am. This is a public hearing on item 18-379, which is the proposal for the city to issue certain bonds. Is there anybody else who would like to speak for or against this proposal? Please come to the lectern and state your name and your address, and I'll give you, you'll have 5 minutes. Any other speakers? Any other speakers on item 18-379? Seeing or hearing none, I will now close the public hearing. And this brings us to unfinished business, which is the consent agenda. And this is item 18-363, which has 3 items. And Madam Clerk, would you read the caption for all 3 items? And
Yes.
as a consent agenda, we'll consider them all together by one motion.
18-363A, zoning amendment ordinance Z 1804. Item B, a resolution granting a use permit to the City of Portsmouth, Virginia to construct and operate a 300-foot communications tower at 2017 Frederick Boulevard, tax parcel 0165-0021. Item C, a resolution granting a use permit to the City of Portsmouth, Virginia to construct and operate a 300-foot communications tower at 0 West Norfolk Road, located approximately 0.35 miles east of Cedar Lane, tax parcel 0722-0030.
Thank you. So that we can consider this matter, is there a motion to approve and adopt the consent agenda, which consists of 1 ordinance and 2 resolutions?
Move adoption.
Second.
We have a motion that's been made and seconded to adopt the consent agenda. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. And Madam Clerk, the motion carries. Which brings us to the next item, item 18-380. And would you read the caption to that ordinance, please?
Yes, sir. An ordinance to authorize the establishment of a project to repair the mast and the canopy of the Union Bank and Trust Pavilion, specifically by 1, establishing a new project titled Pavilion Mast Canopy Replacement in the Municipal Facilities category of the FY 2019 Capital Improvements Fund. 2, amending ordinance 2018-69 for the purpose of reprogramming the $1,715,000 in local funding for the Paradise Creek Bridge project that was reduced by said ordinance to the Pavilion Mast Canopy Replacement project. 3, recognizing interest on the proceeds of the project, of the proceeds City Series 2006 bond issuance in the amount of $224,000 as revenue and appropriating said funds to the Pavilion Mass Canopy Replacement Project. 4, recognizing permit restricted parking revenue, Willett Hall, in the amount of $250,000 and appropriating said funds to the Pavilion Mass Canopy Replacement Project. 5, transferring $150,000 from the City Gateways Project to the Pavilion Mass Canopy Replacement Project. 6, transferring $100,000 from the 801 Water Street Project to the Pavilion Mass Canopy Replacement Project. And 7, authorizing the sole source procurement of Span Systems, Inc. for the replacement of the canopy.
Thank you, ma'am. So that we can consider this matter, is there a motion to adopt the ordinance?
Move for adoption. Second.
We have a motion that's been duly made and seconded, and we're ready for discussion, and we do have some speakers, and the chair recognizes Mark Godalgi-Utrowski, and sir, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, honorable members of council, and fellow interested parties. I would like to argue for deferral of this item for a few reasons. I think that the tortured funding for this project definitely necessitates some review and explanation. Item 3, recognizing interest on the proceeds of the city's Series 2006C bond issuance in the amount of $224,000 as revenue and appropriating said funds. That really deserves some explanation. I've never seen something like that, and I would like to know if there is more of that kind of revenue to be accessed, because in terms of funding various projects and various expenditures in the annual budget, I'd like to know about these revenue sources that don't come readily to view when you're looking through the budget documents. How much else is squirreled away in a cookie jar somewhere that could be used for salary increases or other purposes? So that's one. Number 4, recognizing the permit restricted parking revenue, parenthesis, Willett Hall, in the amount of $250,000 and appropriating those said funds. Well, I'm interested to know what other revenues there are designated in the Willett Hall Fund, because Willett Hall is a treasure to the city, and it seems to me if there are funds available for renovating it, for restoring it, we should know about those rather than allowing you to decide by fiat that it should be demolished. But the larger issue here is I have seen 2 replacements. Well, I've seen 2 roofs come off that facility. And for us to go back and put a new roof on it of the same design seems to me like not learning from the mistakes of the past. The second roof, which replaced the one torn off by Hurricane Isabel, didn't actually fall apart, but by virtue of having to repair the support mast, it had to come off and now it can't go back on. So imagine if all the convertible vehicles that have ever been manufactured were built like that. Once you take it down, you can't put it back up. That's not a very practical design, especially when we are in a corridor where we are exposed to hurricane force winds. It might be our best preventive measure if we had a Category 3 storm heading for us to take the top off before the storm did it for us. So I would like this to be reevaluated. That's why I've asked for the deferral. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And we have one more speaker, Pamela Phillips, and ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
I have a couple of issues with the designation that's essentially $2.4 million. Again, I'll piggyback somewhat off of Mr. Godzilli-Gatrowski's remarks that this is the second time we're having to replace the structure. And it seems to me like it's just a status quo of we're going to go back with the original company that installed it. And it doesn't, I haven't heard of anything going on where we've looked at a potential of a redesign, what those costs would entail, since we know that we've already got the mast that we have to repair as well. On top of that, what are we looking for as continued cost to maintain the structure so that we don't continue to have $2.4 million put into the structure that the city owns, that's taxpayer money, to actually continue these repairants that seem to be a common occurrence with this particular design, especially with the location of the structure. We need to be a little bit more systematic as to how we look at spending the city's money. I know a lot of talk's been put out there about trying to attract more and more events. That location is definitely ideal for being able to do that. But at the end of the day, I've been to a couple of those here recently, and it was lackluster as from what I've seen compared to other events of similar nature that happen in Hampton Roads. You know, is there that time that we actually come up with something new that actually draws in a crowd, or do we copy what every other city is doing to try to bring in a small contingency of people? But we really need to talk about and get down to the bottom of what's going on with this structure, especially when in, I believe it was July, the number got thrown out there of, well, you know, to this point it's only cost $200,000. I'm sure that was accurate at the time, but it comes down to the point of that wasn't a good honest explanation of what was going to be needed as far as repairs and whether or not this needs to be maintained as a city property, or whether the city needs to actually look into finding a organization that maintains, promotes these kinds of structures, and figuring out a partnership so that we've actually got a pavilion that is utilized for 7 months out of the year. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. There are no further speakers, and now we're ready for discussion by council. Councilman Moody.
Thank you, Mayor. One thing, we already have a partner, IMG, and they're tasked with the responsibility of having a certain number of concerts per year, and I think they've done a pretty good job in getting a diverse lineup of talent. I do agree that I would like to see more events there, but my concern, and I think one of the earlier questions is valid, it does strike me as unusual on the recognizing the interest on a bond issue. I would like to know what other sources are out there. In my time on council, I don't recall interest being used for capital projects, or even interest being used for anything, quite frankly. The other concern that I have is the Paradise Creek Bridge. That bridge carries a lot of traffic. I know it's been in need of replacement. So I'm not thrilled with taking money from that project to put another top back on the Pavilion. With that said, the third thing is that, and I asked this at the Public Works session, there's a potential insurance claim, and I believe the first top that was shredded due to, I think, Isabel, I think the cost of that was pretty much offset by insurance, if my memory is correct. So if there's an insurance claim, I would like to see that, the results of that prior to reprogramming money from these different projects. So with that said, I'm a supporter of the Pavilion, but I'm also a supporter of doing good due diligence and seeing if we can't recoup some money from an insurance claim. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? Vice Mayor Simmons.
I agree with Councilman Moody about recouping dollars from insurance, but I think the city attorney made it clear in our work session that those avenues are being pursued. All of our insurance carriers have been notified, and I think this is on a huge scale like fixing a car. If we wait till we hear from the insurance carriers, we'll be 2021 making repairs. I think we have to bite the bullet and move forward and recoup whatever costs we may. But if we're going to be open for a full season in June or May, we got to get on the stick now, because things have to be ordered and paid for and engineered once that mass comes down. Correct me if I'm wrong, City Manager.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council, our partner, IMG, is already planning for the 2019 season, because you have to start almost a year in advance.
Thank you. City Attorney Ashby.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council, just by way of notice, in discussions with IMG, they are looking for the city to make a commitment to having next season begin at the stated date of June 1. That's a little later than they want, but they are looking for a stated commitment from the city that we will be in a position to move forward come June 1. And there are some lengthy timetables with regard to development of structures and canopies.
All right, Councilman Moody has asked for the floor, and Chair recognizes Councilman Moody.
Thank you again, Mayor. My question is, has a claim actually been filed, or we're in the process of gathering information?
Councilman Moody, at the outset, when any individual made a claim with regard to the canopy as well as losses of the potential operator, we carried that information forward to our insurance carriers. So they're aware that folks are laying claim from the damage to the structure. They're not certain what the total dollar amount, but they are aware that there are claims pending based on the failure of the account. We don't have a dollar amount as of yet.
Well, I guess my question is, are we one of those folks that are laying claim, or I can understand IMG laying claim to lost revenue, but we own the facility.
Certainly.
So have we filed a claim?
Certainly. We have put folks on notice for weather-related claims, business interruption insurance, our business interruption insurance, as well as property damage carriers for the replacement of the structure. So, as well as passing along the concerns of IMG. So we've made everyone available funds. We've put them on notice. And the only other thing I would add, Councilman Moody, based on my review of prior situations, you are quite correct that we did get insurance payments. As I recall the records, we did put some money out initially and then made the claim and settled the claims with the insurance companies post the city's initial funding of some aspect of the repairs.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we're ready for the question, which is the motion to adopt the ordinance. Well, we have a motion on the table and a second. And so we're ready to vote on that question. All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. And Madam Clerk, that motion carries. Which brings us to the next item, 18381. And Madam Clerk, would you read the caption of that ordinance?
Yes, sir. An ordinance 1, accepting a port security grant in the amount of $167,295 from the Department of Homeland Security, Federal Emergency Management Agency, and appropriating said amount in the FY 2019 Grants Fund for use by the Portsmouth Police Department, and 2, transferring $55,765 from the Public Safety Radio System Project in the FY 2019 Capital Improvement Fund to the FY 2019 Grants Fund to serve as the required local match for the said port security grant.
Before we consider this matter, we have a request from the city manager. What's that request, Madam City Manager?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of City Council, I'm requesting to defer this item 88381, to further vet the source of the matching funds.
Okay. Is there a motion to defer it to our next council meeting?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
We have a motion that's been made to defer item 18381 to our next council meeting, which is October 23rd. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. And Madam Clerk, this motion carries, and this item is deferred to our next regular council meeting, which brings us to item 18382. And Madam Clerk, would you read the caption of that ordinance?
Yes, an ordinance accepting a local emergency management program grant in the amount of $57,992 administered by the Virginia Department of Emergency Management and appropriating said amount in the FY 2019 Grants Fund for use by the Department of Fire, Rescue, and Emergency Services.
So that we can consider this matter, is there a motion to adopt this ordinance?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion that's been duly made and seconded. We're ready for discussion. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. And Madam Clerk, that motion carries, which brings us to item 18383, which is the consideration of the adoption of a certain ordinance. And Madam Clerk, would you read the caption of that ordinance, please?
Yes, sir. An ordinance to reappropriate unexpended funds from the FY 2018 Portsmouth Public Schools Grant Fund budget in the total amount of $126,908 to the FY 2019 Portsmouth Public Schools Grant Fund budget.
So that we can consider this matter, is there a motion to adopt the ordinance?
Move for adoption. Second.
We have a motion that's been duly made and seconded, and we do have citizens who would like to speak to this matter. And the first is Donna Sy, and ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood. Ordinance 18-383 is to reappropriate $126,908 from the 2017-2018 grant fund to the for the year 2018-2019 grant fund budget. How come this money was left over? For the year 2018-19 budget for the grant fund, is $18,089,580. This addition will make $18,216,488. What is the anticipated use for this grant money? If the school system had a finance committee where the public was allowed to participate in the exercise to self-govern, we, the people, would have had all the necessary information before this public hearing. Instead, the Budget and Finance Subcommittee is composed of 2 elected board members. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, ma'am. And the second speaker is Juanita Jones. And ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Juanita Jones, and I am the president of the Portsmouth Education Association. And at this time, I'm going to leave my way to Dr. Bracy when he comes up and speak.
We don't yield time. Will you state what you're doing again, please?
I was going to yield my time to Dr. Bracy, but if you don't want to yield time, I can speak for myself.
Please.
Okay. I have read the resolution from September. I have read the original resolution, and I have read the one that you have given us tonight. And they are all in accordance. But my question to you is, and the board, to clarify what you're saying and what you're going to do. And earmark the money that's supposed to be for education, not for the city funds. That's all I'm asking, is clarification.
Thank you, ma'am. I think you're not speaking to the issue that's before us. We're at 18,383.
And that is, am I correct? And that's the money from 2017-18 funds?
It is. But
That's what I'm speaking to.
I think you might be pleased with the outcome, ma'am.
I may be what?
Pleased with the outcome.
I was, okay, whatever you say, I'll wait and see.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the part of council? Hearing none, the motion is to adopt. All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. And that motion carries, which brings us to item 18,384. And Madam Clerk, would you read the caption of that ordinance, please?
Yes. An ordinance appropriating $1,653,636 to the James Hurst Elementary and Churchland Primary and Intermediate Elementary Schools Classrooms Project in the education category of the FY 2019 Capital Improvement Fund budget.
So that we can consider this matter, is there a motion to adopt?
Move for adoption.
Second.
We have a motion that's been duly made and seconded, which is to adopt, and we're ready for discussion. And we have one speaker, Donna Sy. And ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood. 18-384 ordinance is to appropriate $1,653,636 to the James Hurst Elementary School and the Churchland Primary and Intermediate Elementary School for their classroom project in the education category for the year 2018-19. How come this was put in to be adopted? If we had an education committee where the people could participate in the meetings, we would know ahead of time what this is all about. The Curriculum and Instruction Subcommittee has 2 elected to make all the decisions without the people's knowledge and/or engagements. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, ma'am. Any further discussion on this motion by members of council? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, which is to adopt, please vote yes. Opposed, no. And Madam Clerk, that motion carries. Which brings us to item 18386. 385, I'm sorry. Would you read the caption of that ordinance, please?
Yes, sir. An ordinance to reappropriate unexpended funds in the amount of $3,661,144 from the FY 2018 textbook fund budget for the Portsmouth Public Schools to the FY 2019 textbook fund budget for the Portsmouth Public Schools.
So that we can consider this matter, is there a motion to adopt?
Move to adopt. Second.
We have a motion that's been duly made and seconded, and we're ready for discussion. And we do have a registered speaker, Donna Sy, and ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood. 18-385 is an ordinance to reappropriate $3,661,000 and $144 from the 2017-2018 textbook fund and apply it to for the year 2018-19. The textbook fund for 2018-19 is $1,334,821. The total amount for the textbook fund for 2018-19 is $4,995,965. If there was a curriculum and instruction committee where the people could participate, we would know how come all this money was left over. There are 2 elected on the subcommittee, and they do not communicate with the people. A finance committee would also have the information we the people need to know about. This money is coming from the people, not from the government. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, ma'am. Any further discussion on this matter by City Council? If not, we're ready for the question. All in favor of the motion, which is to adopt, please vote yes. Opposed, no. And Madam Clerk, that motion carries, which brings us to item 18386, which is the consideration of another ordinance. Would you read the caption of that ordinance, please?
Yes. An ordinance to reappropriate encumbered but unexpended funds from the FY 2018 Portsmouth Public Schools PPS General Fund budget in the total amount of $604,930 by the classification to the FY 2019 PPS General Fund budget.
So that we can consider this matter, is there a motion to adopt?
Second.
We have a motion that's been duly made and seconded, and we're ready for discussion, and we do have one speaker, and that's Donna Sy. Ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy, and
Hold on, please. Excuse me.
Okay.
Let's keep it down and respect the speaker, please.
So 18-386 is an ordinance to transfer $604,930 from the year 2017-18 budget to the year 2018-19 budget. The budget for the year 2018-19 is $145,327,289. And the general fund budget will be $145,932,219. If the school division had a finance committee, we the people would be able to know why there was money left over in the general fund budget. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, ma'am. Any further discussion of this motion, which is to adopt? We're ready for the question. All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. And Madam Clerk, that motion carries. Which brings us to item 18387, which is the consideration and adoption of an ordinance to appropriate certain funds to a restricted account, a restricted fund. Will you read the caption of the ordinance, please?
Yes, sir. An ordinance to appropriate $5,189,613 in the unexpended funds from the FY 2018 Risk Management Fund budget for the Portsmouth Public Schools to the FY 2019 School Board Risk Management and Insurance Fund established by Section 2.2A of the City Code for the purpose of establishing a reserve for the PPS health self-insurance and workers' compensation and general liability programs.
So that we can consider this matter, is there a motion to adopt?
Second.
We have a motion to adopt, and it's been seconded, and we're ready for discussion. And I'm going to lead off the discussion by reminding City Council and the public that 45 years ago, the then City Council enacted City Code Section 2.2, which in the first paragraph reads, "The School Board Risk Management and Insurance Fund is hereby created for the purpose of providing a reserve source of funding for certain expenses of public schools." And so this is a fund that was created not today, but 45 years ago. Paragraph B is very instructive. It says, annually, as part of the budget process, the City Council shall, which is a mandatory word, shall appropriate for the purpose of education the total amount of all funds estimated to be available for ensuring fiscal year in the school board's risk management. And then lastly, draws on this fund are restricted by city code for the sole purpose to be used by the school board for its risk management and insurance program. And the only person that can make draws on this fund is the superintendent communicating with the city manager, providing the documentation. And lastly, it says that the city attorney shall approve the payment of any claim and shall consult with the school board, not the city council, before a payment is made of any claim in excess of $100,000. So before us is a ordinance that appropriates unspent funds from the school board risk management fund for last year to this restricted account that was set up 45 years ago by the city code. And Madam City Manager, it's my understanding that the school board budget already has $19,636,800 in its budget for risk management this year?
That is the amount that's identified, Mayor.
And so with this adoption of this ordinance, it would bring a total of $24,826,413 available to the schools for risk management and insurance for fiscal year 2019. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And Mr. City Attorney, is it correct that this, as Councilman Moody said earlier tonight, these funds are in a lockbox and cannot be used for any other purpose? Is that correct?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of City Council, that is the explicit expectation and the edict of the ordinance provider.
Thank you, sir. And with that, we'll discuss this matter, and we do have citizens who have signed up, and the first citizen is Claude Parent. And sir, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Rowe, Vice Mayor, and members of the City Council. I'm Claude Parent, and I reside at 802 Arnold Palmer Drive. Earlier today, I sent you an email requesting that you delay voting on the risk management fund. The mayor responded to my email, and you also received a copy, at 1:18, that I learned of the 1973 code and heard discussed at your early meeting tonight. However, the reason for this request is that the board and I were blindsided, as there has not been any dialogue between the superintendent and the city manager as to the details regarding appropriating these funds to the city's 2019 general fund as addressed by this 45-year-old code. At the earlier meeting, I learned that these codes will be set aside as a reserve, as stated, to be exclusively for risk management. I understand that. Why is this item a last-minute change to our resolution without any discussion with the superintendent and his staff, especially in regards to this new code that we found out at 5:30? This could have been avoided if the board would have known. Mr. Mayor, you were the city manager at one time, and why did you not address this issue until tonight? This code has not been followed for 45 years, and it would be important for all parties to be discussed to make sure that we all understand this 45-year-old code that we're learning tonight. For the last 8 years that I have had the privilege of serving on the school board, I've had citizens to ask, how can the city council and the school board develop more trust and work together in a positive working environment? By the city manager's unwillingness to return phone calls to the superintendent is an indication of her unwillingness to work with the superintendent and his staff to fully understand what this means to our school system and our employees. The city code was written during a time when the city managed risk management for the school system and did not include health care. I appeal to you tonight to delay voting on the city manager's recommendation until both parties fully understand the meaning of this action. I think tonight this would give the citizens of Portsmouth that are sitting behind me the opportunity to know that there will be trust between the city manager and the city council and the school board. Everybody's been asking, how can we work together? And the bottom line is that we've got to trust each other. And now at 5:30 or at 1:18 and at 5:30, we're just learning about a code 45 years ago. And it could have been if Dr. Patton, when she addressed this, when she met with our CFO, Dr. Roberts, and by phone, our superintendent, if she would have just explained at that time, do you know about this 1973 code? Had she notified them and explained this, we wouldn't be here tonight. We wouldn't have done a robo-code last night to our employees because we did not understand. We've got to work together, and we've got to stop this kind of lack of communication. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. The next speaker is Dr. Eli Bracey, and sir, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Rowe, members of City Council. I'm Eli Bracey III. I reside at 2970 Greenwood Drive. Following Mr. Parent, he covered a lot of the key areas that concern us tonight. As superintendent, it's my job to make sure that all of our employees' benefits are covered, and that is why we're here tonight. I was caught off guard about this change in appropriation, one, because Dr. Patton asked that we resubmit our reappropriation list to the CFO and include it in the CMR format, which we did, which I have a hard time understanding because when we submit it, it's basically saying the same thing, but she won't sit on that format. So I did that. So when I got a call from my communications director saying, have you seen the agenda for council for the risk management reappropriation? I said, no, I haven't. So once I took a look at that, it had changed. So my question is, if you're going to ask me to write the CMRs in the way that we want them listed to give to you, then if it's going to change, I would think that as a courtesy, I would get a call saying that it would change. Earlier in the work session, Councilman Moody, you asked a very good question to Dr. Patton, and that was, have you had a conversation with the superintendent about the code that the mayor read in the early session? And she said that she did. We did meet last week, and the discussion was about explaining our reappropriation and how would we use that. Basically, we're using it as we've done in the past. It's earmarked for risk management. You can't use it for anything else. So with the money now going with the code of this 45 years ago that was established, so now we're going to follow that. Now, at that meeting last week, it would have been an opportune time to let us know that this is where you were going, so that I could let my employees know of the change. So the question is, if we had that meeting last week and you shared that information with me, I want to know what my response was. Because I know that that didn't happen. If I knew that, why would I send an email out? Why would I do a robocall? Because I would already have the answers. And as Mr. Parent said, it's trust and it's confusion that's going on between us that needs to stop. My main focus is student achievement, but I always come before you with financial issues. But I don't want us to lose sight. We won't lose sight of what we're here for to do, is to make sure that our kids get the best education and that our employees receive the proper benefits, and we want them all to stay here in Portsmouth. But I do agree that now that we're going to follow a code that we were just introduced to this afternoon, I think it would be a wise decision if we all sat down just to see, what does this mean? What does this entail? You spelled it out, Mayor, in terms of making a request to the city manager, but there's still so many things that we need to discuss about that. You know, what does that process look like? At the end of this year, what will the reappropriation process be? Because we don't know that. Those are things that we don't know, because that will help us in terms of how we would budget. Because there are things that we have that we've been discussing to introduce ways to lower the health care costs to our employees. And that's what we were going to use some of those funds for. So I need to know, in our planning to do that, to help our employees, what do we do? And see, that's what I need to have beforehand instead of getting it the day of. I sent the email last night, and I told you I called, I texted, and then I replied to the email, and I thought we were going to meet today. But I still haven't heard anything. So I'm here. I'm ready to meet. I'm willing. We want to work this out. I'm tired of fighting against. We need to fight together for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, no public display. I'll ask you to leave the... Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilman Smith, and please, no further display.
I'm trying to get my hands around, my head around what is the primary purpose of a risk management fund. I think I have a pretty good handle. My years on the school board, It serves a basic purpose. What is very disheartening and very ingenuous is to do robocalls and put out information as if this reappropriation of money left over from one year to the next, when there's already $19 million there, is going to affect employees' health benefits. Shame on y'all for doing that. To get everybody stirred up and for emails flying and robocalls flying. I mean, and then you say we're fighting. We're not fighting. You just don't want to accept what the purpose of what we're doing is for, and why we are doing something that we haven't done in the past is because things weren't being done appropriately. That money was being spent for all kinds of reasons. Normally, that reserve, and as we said, it's reserved. That money is for backup. That money is to cover in a risk management fund when there's shortages or when there's something catastrophic. It picks up what you already have. So I guess I'm just maybe there's a different purpose and a meaning for that fund since my many years ago being on the school board. But I'm just puzzled why the big hoopla is when the money still belongs to the school system. We can't touch it. We can't do anything with it. It's there if you need it. We needed to implement a new plan to make sure that it's being properly used. And I guess if we did some research and looked at some of the purposes that were being used for the money, it runs the gamut. So, and the public doesn't know that all the time. They don't pay that close attention to expenditures. So I'm just, disturbed. I mean, my little short tenure here this time on city council, there's no battle, there's no wars. It's just us trying to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money, because they're going to come back on us also. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Mark Adelgi-Yakrowski. And sir, you have 5 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, honorable members of council, and fellow interested parties, I rise to support what the school board chair stated, that the issue here really is lack of trust. And you should be aware that those of us who have been on the campaign trail this season have heard that in just about every forum expressed by the citizens of this city, in civic league after civic league. And if you don't believe me, ask Councilmember Moody, Council Candidate Revel, Council Candidate Phillips, Council Candidate Glover. They're all in the room. Ask them afterwards if that hasn't been a concern. But you have leaders of the community. You have President Elvira Johnson-Williams here to attest to it. You have James Overton here. You have Ms. Sharon Anderson, president of Ebony Heights. So there are many people who can tell you, yes, there is a problem in terms of the relationship. And dropping this in, as it was dropped in, the agenda appeared Friday, so that's the first notice that anybody has had that it was coming up. It's just wrong. Let me turn your attention in the explanation of the item that accompanied the agenda package, that was part of the agenda package. Given that the funds are a reserve, The draft ordinance proposed for council consideration provides as follows. And bullet 3 is the important bullet here, or I see it as the important bullet. In accordance with the intent of Section 2.2C of the Portsmouth City Code, the city manager is authorized to enter into an agreement with Portsmouth Public Schools for the disbursement of the funds in the reserve to Portsmouth Public Schools on an as-needed basis and without further action of City Council. To me, putting this as the last consideration is putting the cart before the horse. If the manager had sat down with the superintendent of schools and worked out this agreement before this item came before council for action, there really would be no drama here tonight. They could have worked out what the terms were. Any questions that weren't answered in the text of this, and there are many, those could have been worked out, and we could have gone forward in a unified way. Now let me ask you this. I know you don't answer directly, but I would like an answer at some point in time. Considering this is going into the general fund nominally as a reserve, does council not have the right to reappropriate funds that are in the general fund? It may be a reserve today, but if you decide later on that you need to put more money into the Paradise Creek Bridge or buy another top for the Union Bank Pavilion, might you not just reprogram that money? Because, you know, you are the ultimate arbiter of where those funds go. The other question with regard to those funds is, are they first dollar funds or last dollar funds? So there is a $19 million reserve for risk management provided in the budget. Is the school system to draw their claims, their allocations from that fund first and then come back to this? Or can they draw from this first? I don't think anything in here addresses that consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Donna Sy. Ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood. After hearing these speakers speak, it changed my idea about what I want to say. When I went to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, I know people hate to hear me talking about my experience up there, but I'm going to tell you it was the best life-changing experience, and they taught me a lot. The school board, I spoke up there all the time. They were separate. They didn't have any city manager or city administrator dictating to them what they needed to do. They had everything organized. They took care of everything. And I was proud. And I wanted to stay up there. But I couldn't sell my house here. So I had to come back. And then God called me to serve. The communication line is broken all to pieces in Portsmouth. There's no committees for we the people to participate in the city or in the school system. If we had a human resource committee, we could know if there is a problem with sickness or injuries in the school system or what the risk management fund would be needed for. Communication really is a problem here. I have no representative sitting up there. Nobody talks to me. I write emails. Who represents me? Nobody. And nobody represents me in the school system either.
Thank you, ma'am. The next speaker is Pamela Phillips. And ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening again. My name is Pamela Phillips. I reside in the Parkview area of town. This all comes down to communication. The idea that we're going to today bring up a 75-year-old ordinance and section in the code as far as to justify what's going on. We're talking about members that have been on council, on the school board for multiple terms, and this is the first time we're dealing with reappropriating these funds into a general fund that the city is the administrator of. Part of the concern I have is, so this is for healthcare concerns for workers and potentially students of the public school system here in Portsmouth. And so we're going to have potentially classified information as far as vital statistics, what kind of expenditures are actually being covered, handled between multiple departments instead of just within the school system that actually understands how to take care of that information. So the more people that you have looking at this and dealing with it, the more there is a potential for information to come out that shouldn't become public knowledge. We are talking about human resources, applications, and there's a time where the school board needs to be able to function separately. That's the way it's set up in our city. And we need for council and the school board to work out some of these issues that are currently going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Before us is the consideration of item 18387. A lot of misinformation has been said tonight, actually. This appropriation is not into the general fund. I will say that again. This appropriation is not into the general fund. It's into a fund that is entitled School Board Risk Management and Insurance Fund that stands separate and apart from the general fund. The difference between public accounting and private sector accounting is that fundamentally you count for public money in funds. And so this money is not going into the general fund that the city council allegedly controls. It goes into a restricted fund that is parallel and separate from the general fund with the sole purpose of use by the school board for risk management and for insurance, number one. Number two, listening tonight to what's been said, one would think that this was a last-minute item. It's not. The agenda went out last week with the reference several different times to City Code Section 2.2. 2.2 is an easy read, and it's there for any body, any citizen or non-citizen to look up and read. So with that, this is a consideration of the appropriation of unspent risk management funds that the school board turned in from fiscal year 2018 to the School Board Risk Management and Insurance Fund for 2019, bringing the sum total, the grand total, that's available for school board risk management and insurance to $24,826,413. That's a 25% increase over what was in the current budget of 2019. In no way is this money being taken by the city. In no way does this money, this appropriation, put the school employees at jeopardy as far as their own health insurance. With that, are there any other comments by council, discussion? Councilman Moody.
Thank you, Mayor. What it isn't, it certainly isn't the revealing of any classified information or any violation of HIPAA laws. That's not there. I do think it's a lockbox situation, but I also know that communication is the imparting of information or exchange of information between people. And trust is built on good communication. You know, sometimes you can be absolutely right in your thinking, but the other person may not be on the same wavelength. What I've heard tonight, there are a lot of people that aren't on the same wavelength. I get it, what we're doing, and I don't think there's any overt plan to try to spend the money in some other area. I do think, excuse me, I do think it is a lockbox situation. But if we're going to improve and build on trust between the school board and city council, we got to make sure that both parties are on the same wavelength. And if I understand something and I get something, I want them to also have the opportunity to get what I get and to get what this council gets. You know, a 45-year-old ordinance, darn, that's almost as old as I am. To dust that off and to use it on a short notice situation that the other party apparently didn't have a long time to contemplate what the impact was, I don't think that's the way to build trust. So I see no harm and no sense of urgency on why we have to approve this on this given night. So I'm going to make a motion for deferral so that communication can be polished and both parties can get together and hopefully understand the intentions are well placed. So my motion, Mayor, is to defer this.
So is your motion to table it to October 23rd? Is that your motion to table?
Yes. Yes, I'll change it to a, let's table it.
All right, because it's a motion to table it. There's no discussion. So we're ready for the question. All in favor of the motion to table this to October 23rd, please vote appropriately.
A yes vote is to table it.
Yes vote is to table. Did the motion get a second? I'm sorry, that's why. All right.
Second.
We do have a motion which is to table, and it's been seconded. There is no discussion on a motion to table under Robert's Rules of Order. All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. And Madam Clerk, that motion carries. Oh, it sure did. That motion fails. All right, so we're back to our original motion, which is, please, which is to approve. Any further discussion on the motion, which is to adopt the ordinance? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to adopt, please vote yes. Opposed, no. All right, can you get us on board? All right. We're back to the original motion, which was made and seconded. All in favor of the motion to adopt, vote yes. Opposed, no. And that motion carries. Which brings us to the next item on.
Where's the board?
That motion carries. Which brings us to item 18388. And Madam Clerk, would you read that caption?
Yes. A resolution authorizing the issuance of up to $10,900,000 in the City of Portsmouth, Virginia general obligation bonds and setting forth the form, details, and provisions for the payment thereof.
Okay, we have and please exit we still have business to conduct. Please exit quietly. We have before us, adoption of a resolution. In order to consider this matter, we need a motion and a second.
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay. We have a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the issuance of certain bonds up to the amount of $10.9 million. Any discussion on the motion? We're ready for the question. All in favor of the motion, which is to approve the resolution? We have a speaker. Okay, thank you. And the chair, in fact, we're ready to hear Donna Sy, and ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood. 18-388 is a resolution to authorize the borrowing of $10,900,000. The public hearing was just minutes ago, and now the vote is on. Our public affairs listed on the agenda tonight is a prime example of how we the people are not respected or even valued. Having a public hearing and a vote on one night is clearly a method to subject the people to intense mind control and manipulation to rob us daily of our life force. We have allowed this city council to think for us, to fill our heads with their ideas. All they want to do is rule us. Local government provides services, collect taxes to provide those services, and give us a voice to speak our minds if we have an issue or problem. The local government gets their authority from the people, who are the original holders of inherent political power. All power or authority bestowed upon government officials flow from the people, and that authority remains limited in its scope and term and can be taken away by the people at any time. And I hope that'll happen in November. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Any further discussion on part of council in this matter, which is a motion to adopt the resolution? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. And the motion carries. Which brings us to item 18-389, which is the consideration of another resolution. And Madam Clerk, will you read the caption of that resolution?
Yes, sir. A resolution authorizing the conveyance of a 0.204 acre portion of the Spates Run Reservoir to the City of Suffolk and related easements to the City of Suffolk, Dominion Energy, Virginia, and Verizon, Virginia, LLC, in furtherance of the widening and improvement of Route 58, and further authorizing the city manager to execute a sales agreement and all deeds and other documents necessary to effectuate the intent of this resolution.
Okay, before we consider this matter, Councilman Smith, I think, needs to declare something, and the chair recognizes Councilman Smith.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I will be abstaining from this vote due to the fact that I have a relationship with one of the parties, my real job, Dominion Energy.
Thank you, sir. So that we can consider this matter, is there a motion to adopt this resolution?
Move for adoption. Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. The motion carries. And Madam Clerk, please record the fact that Councilman Smith abstained. Which brings us to item 18-390, And Madam Clerk, will you read the caption of that ordinance or resolution?
Yes, sir. A resolution authorizing the conveyance of a 0.239 acre portion of Space Run Reservoir to the City of Suffolk and related easements to the City of Suffolk, Dominion Energy Virginia, and Verizon Virginia, LLC, in furtherance of the widening and improvement of Route 58, and further authorizing the city manager to execute a sales agreement and all deeds and other documents necessary to effectuate the intent of this resolution.
Thank you. And the chair recognizes Councilman Smith.
On this item also, I will be abstaining due to my relationship as an employee of Dominion Energy.
Thank you, sir. So that we can consider this matter as a motion to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Ready for the question? All in favor of the question, which is to adopt, please vote yes. Opposed, no. Madam Clerk, that motion carries. And please record the fact that Councilman Smith abstained from not only voting, but discussing the matter. Which brings us to new business, item 18391, boards and commissions. I don't think we have a report.
That's correct, Mayor.
Thank you,
No
sir.
boards or commissions.
18392, item submitted by council members, and the chair recognizes Vice Mayor Simmons.
Thank you, Mayor. It's a busy weekend in Portsmouth this weekend, like most. We have our farmers market, of course, on Saturday. But before we get to that, the Chesapeake Bay Schooner Race schooners should begin arriving in the city at the foot of High Street on Friday morning. They set sail out of Baltimore on Thursday morning, and assuming Hurricane Michael doesn't make too much of a mess this far north, those schooners should start arriving on Friday. There are activities at the foot of High Street to welcome them, and some further activities on Friday night at Roger Brown's Restaurant and on Saturday. On Saturday, in addition to the farmers market, we also have the Look, Listen, and Learn Portsmouth Fire Department community event in honor of Fire Prevention Week. You know, last weekend they had a community cookout at the fire station on River Shore Road in Churchland. And this Saturday, the 13th, there will be another community event at the Sportsplex at 1801 Portsmouth Boulevard, sponsored by the fire department, between 11 a.m. and 2 o'clock p.m. Also on Saturday afternoon, the 13th, in the 300 and 400 blocks of High Street, while you're down at the farmers market and looking at the wonderful schooners, you can also enjoy a classic vintage car Old Town cruise-in. There will be vintage cars parked up and down High Street and some 50s and 60s music going on, and that will be ongoing from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. and specials in some of the restaurants to make that even more fun. On a different note, much more serious note, we have upcoming on Wednesday, the 17th of October, more information on Medicaid expansion, and that will be held on the 17th at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. at the PRHA offices at 606 Phoebus Street for seniors, and then again at PRHA offices on Berkeley Avenue from 6 to 7 p.m. on Wednesday the 17th. And we also have a job fair coming up this coming Sunday. This is the Naval Facilities Engineering Command job fair, and they will have tentative job offers available to qualified candidates on site. That is this Sunday the 14th, 10 a.m. all day at the Chesapeake Conference Center. And then on Thursday, October the 18th, before we meet again, will be the Portsmouth Homeless Assistance Day, which will be at the Neighborhood Facility Rec Center on Elm Avenue. And that's it.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next item is item 18393, and report on pending items. Dr. Patton.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, Mr. Pace will report back. Mrs. Hogue is out today.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, good evening. There were 3 non-agenda speakers. 2 of the speakers required action by staff. The items brought forth are currently being assessed, and once the assessments are complete, we will get back with you to provide an update.
Thank you. Any questions? Dr. Patton?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council, the mayor asked that I give an update on the Hurricane Michael, and I have our Battalion Chief Arnold who can give us the update. Battalion Chief Arnold, you can speak now.
To give you a quick update on Hurricane Michael, it's set to make landfall in the Florida Panhandle tomorrow evening, actually tonight. Start making effects of the Florida Panhandle as a Category 3 storm. They're looking at pretty significant damage as it makes its way onto land. But then it's going to have a pretty good head of steam as it moves northeast through Georgia into the Carolinas, and then of course approaching us around Thursday evening. For us, we're going to have tropical storm force winds. We're going to have anywhere between 4 and 10 inches of rain. Those estimates have gone up and they've gone down over the last 24 hours. The amount of rain that we get is going to be extremely dependent on the track the storm is taking. Forecasters are confident that the current forecast track is what it's going to stay true to. So we're looking at anywhere from, like I said, 4 to possibly 10 inches locally of rain starting Thursday evening through rush hour on Friday morning. We have everything in place as we did during Florence, of course not as ramped up. Our public safety personnel have their high water vehicles on standby along with boats, and we're in a constant state of readiness to respond as needed when needed.
Thank you, Dr. Patton. And to summarize what we heard, the storm is to hit landfall tomorrow, predicted, Florida Panhandle, and when the storm will get 10 to 11 inches of rain by Thursday of next week, essentially a tropical storm. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And I know that you will keep both the public and the City Council apprised as the storm continues.
Yes, we will continue to keep you apprised.
Let me take this opportunity, too, that if anybody wants to be on the city's email list, the city sends out very frequent notices about storm events such as this. Please contact the city manager and give the city manager your email address, and we'll put you on the list. Thank you, Dr. Patton. This brings us to non-agended speakers. And our first speaker is Walter Carter. And, sir, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council. My name is Walter J. Carter, Sr. I live at 1401 Watts Avenue, Portsmouth, Virginia. I stand before you with a problem that should have been dissolved and solved years ago. The matter of fact, 21 years ago. You're holding your hand, and I would like to get those pictures back. Thank you. You're holding your hand an ordinance that was done in 1979. And when all of you get one, I want to bring your attention to, first, it is under condition. And second, I want to bring your attention to number 3, which is the zoning. Then I want to skip A and bring you to number B. That's on the first page. And in the item D, I want to bring you down to where the maintenance and buffers in good condition. Then I want to bring you to E, at the application shall comply with all applicable codes, ordinance, and regulations. Then I want to bring your attention to G. No vehicles will be repaired outside at any time. All garage doors and windows in the rear shop will be closed. I want to bring your attention to that. I filed a petition in 1977, I think it was, that the old Lamb and Roberts garage at 1428 Portsmouth Boulevard should be closed. I didn't continue with that, and I wished I had today, because that place is a sore eye to our neighborhood, to the city of Portsmouth, and to anyone that passes by with any dignity and look at the condition of that place there. And I'm going to ask that City Council, I wish every one of you could go out there and have a look at that place. They have stumps as big as that desk that the officer is sitting at. Then pull them into that place, got wood piled up everywhere. My dog killed a raccoon week before last in my yard. And if you look at the pictures, you will see that my property is kept and it is decent. And nowhere on my property would house anything as possums, and my dog killed possum on a regular basis. I have lizards. I move my trash can to put my trash out. Lizards run out from under my trash can. Where are they coming from? They're coming from over there at that garage. I have gone down to the 4th floor constantly asking those people to do something about that property. And let me go here. I have some notes, and where are they? Anyway, you have the head of whatever department that is down on the 4th floor, Mr. Smith. I showed him the pictures of the fence. I gave him a copy of the ordinance. Done nothing. Told me that I could do nothing and they could do nothing. The inspector, Mr. McCant, and I do give him some leeway because he can't go any further than his supervisor let him go, Mrs. Rose. I spoke to her. She says,
Sir, your time is up.
Okay, can I get an okay that someone is going to come out there and look at that property?
I'm going to ask the city manager have one of her deputies meet with you now. Dr. Patton? If you'll, Mr. Baldwin will meet you in the back.
Okay, thank you.
Our next speaker is Elvira Johnson Williams. Ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, citizens of Portsmouth. My name is Elvira Johnson Williams. I reside at 3313 Armstead Drive in the city of Portsmouth in the North Truxton area. I stand before you tonight asking for help from this city council. We have been trying for the last couple of years to get a stop sign on the corner of Dahlia Street and Killian Avenue. A neighbor of ours recently lost her car totally from a flying vehicle going down the street. We have been told several times that a test has been done, a study has been done, and I feel like the city is wasting money on their tests and their studies. All they need to do is dig a hole, put a stop sign, it'll be done. Real simple. It's simple. That's a dangerous corner. We have new people in the neighborhood with children. My biggest fear is one of those children going to get hit or killed. Do we have to wait for someone to die to get a simple stop sign put up? That's on Killian Avenue. If you go down Killian Avenue, coming from Magnolia, you got about 6 blocks. But when you get to Killian Avenue and Bagley Street, you got 3 stop signs right there. But when you get to Killian and Dahlia, you got 2 stop signs. We want a 4-way stop sign on that corner. There's only 2 stop signs that we're asking for at this time on that street. On Down Street, they act like that's the Indy 500. Now, I've been told that the study says that it has already been proven that the highest rate of speed is 35. Well, guess what? Residential speed limit is 25 throughout the city everywhere else the last time I checked. And that this city feels like we need to have an incident before something gets done to get something taken care of positively. Why wait that long? My question is, if you all supposedly work for us, the citizens, and all we're asking for is a simple stop sign, why do you all feel that you can keep spending our money on unnecessary tests, on unnecessary studies, when all you need to do is dig a hole on either side of the street, put 2 stop signs, call it a day, and it's done? It's real simple. Maybe you don't think that we understand that. I don't know. I really don't. I don't get it. Why we have to wait 2 years for studies and all this other unnecessariness to be done just to get 2 lousy stop signs on that corner, to keep somebody else's car from being totaled, to keep somebody's child from being hit or killed on that corner. I have an issue with that. Every time we need something done in this city, we got to do a study. Why? If you want to spend some money, let's go out Douglas Park and spend some money on those grates where the people that gathers around these stores and throw their beer cans in the grates. You want to clean out the drains? Put a gate up there. They can't hide the beer there no more. They can't stick them in the gutters. I know, I've been out there, I walked it. I've been asked not to do it, but I do it anyway. So let's spend some money on 2 stop signs, some grates in these drainages, and we can save the city a whole lot of money. And you don't need a study, because you know why? I just told you what you need to do. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Patton, would you look into this matter, and would you have the appropriate person meet with her so we can get the details?
Yes,
now?
Mayor, I will.
Our next speaker is Juanita Jones, and ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
I think I have it right this time. My name is Juanita Jones, and I reside at 1505 Parker Avenue. I'm going to speak slowly so you can understand what I'm saying. We have residents that stay at 1506 Parker Avenue. We have called, we have sent emails, and now I'm standing before you. He has trash that's been out there for a month. And when the trash collectors come by, we ask, why can't you pick up this trash? And they say because the person there has a car that they can't get to, and it's up to him to move the trash. Not only that, he has moving vans, he has work vans, he has trucks. Then when people come down the street, they have to coast because they can't get by. He has a boarding house, which he's not supposed to have in a residential area. And then he have a business there. Mind you, he don't live there. He lives in Chesapeake. But he bring all his trash from all his other apartments and other homes and leave it there. That's bringing our property value down. And where I live at is a bunch of elderly people. And it's not fair to them. And it's not fair to me. When I come out my driveway, I can only go left. I can't go right. Now I have called. I have sent emails, I have pictures, and I need to have something done. I have called about a light, because that corner at Parker and Duke is dark. There's a lot of elderly people that live there. They're in fear. People can't sit on their porch, and it's not fair. Now, this is my last step to come to y'all, to have someone to go out there and check this out. Trash that's been sitting there for a month that he had bought from other places. A refrigerator in the front yard. Can't go up and down the street because he got his work tools and stuff there. Something need to be done. And yes, my name is Juanita Jones. I live at 1505 Parker Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And Dr. Patton, will you look into this matter? Will you have the appropriate person get the details from her now?
Yes, I will, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker is Ross, and I'm going to, Sir Cristione. And sir, you have 5 minutes.
This is all new to me. I'm learning.
Sir, will you adjust the microphone, please?
Is this all right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I give you all respect, Mayor, City Council, and I'm here to, I want to see Portsmouth stop growing a lot of new buildings and develop the money to continue to renew and keep the old buildings, because this is an ancient city, and I like to see it stay that way. I'm a contractor, and I work out of the city. I have been. I don't do it anymore, but I still have a license for the city of Portsmouth and also for the state of Virginia. And every once in a while I might do a job, but I have to have somebody else do it, because I'm 92 years old and I still want to keep going, but I live here and I live in Sterling Point, and I think it's a good idea to stop putting new buildings up. Instead, you should remodel the old ones to make it look like the old city that it used to be. I felt very proud when I first came here. I'm from Buffalo, New York, and I thought, boy, this is a nice place to live. I says, it's old-fashioned and it's got old stuff. In fact, when I first got here, it was hard to understand some of the people that were talking to me, because you have that southern drawl, and I didn't understand a lot of it in the beginning, but I do now. I've lived here long enough now. I've been here 34 years. Now, I'd like to mention the fact that keep the old buildings and also all of the city buildings, you keep them together, and I'm in the process of developing a solar hot water system that could be used by the city, and it will cut the expenses of the city, their cost of supplying hot water to all the buildings that are here. And also, I'm also developing a marinade and a sauce, and then I'm getting it okayed now by the state. And the minute that's okayed, on the label it says all profits to go to children without fathers and mothers without husbands. So this is what my objective is. And then I would like to see the city stop tearing down old buildings and schools and building new schools when they could use the money to just do the repair. And also, it would be more beneficial, and then by the time you get through doing that, you'll find out that you'll still have money in your general fund. That's my objective. And let me see, what else have I got to holler about? I think that, yeah, I did this. Let me see. Yeah, don't demolish your city hall. That I don't think you should do. Keep it so it stays on the waterfront like that, and it's an icon, I think. That's my opinion. And I'm sure there's probably a lot of other people out there that feel the same way. And it's a good idea to try to keep the details and the structures of the buildings that are already here, keep them the way they are. Because this is an old city, and you got the Navy, the Army, the whatever else is here. And you also got a Portsmouth hospital here that belongs to the VA. So try to keep it all in ancient. That's enough for me. I just made it, huh?
Thank you, sir. We have no further business, and this meeting is adjourned.